Welcome back to another episode of the Collaborative IEP podcast. I'm Ashley Barlow, your host, and I am so happy you are here. And I'll tell you what I'm not happy about. There is snow coming from the sky as I talk to you. And holy cow, I'm so tired of snow. So by the time this airs, hopefully you can see the grass here in Kentucky and it's warm and cozy where you are too. The first thing I want to talk about is how excited I am for the conference, which is airing this week. If you are listening to this live, yes, we are hosting our sixth annual virtual special education and advocacy conference on February 18th and 19th. The way it goes is there is a free ticket that gives you access to a day's worth of content over the course of one day. And at the end of that day, those sessions are closed on the free ticket. If you're unable to attend live for any reason or you want playback options, you can buy an all access pass. And the price goes up on those on February 17th at midnight. 11:59 Eastern. So if you are looking to get access to it, and you are kind of on the fence, know that you'll save $20 if you 20, I don't know, 22 or something, if you wait until the 17th. So I hope you'll join us. I'm really, really excited about the conference. And I'm really excited about the kind of like breadth of things that we are covering. So we have things from preschool to transition. We have things from behavior to reading to policy to advocacy skills. We have some really nuanced things like how your eligibility category could impact you in an MDR and kind of like the breadth of how you could use an IEE in your advocacy practice. And so I am so excited to share it with you. So I hope you'll join us at the conference. Today's topic is one that I am admittedly not good at, and you might think I'm good at. So if you only know me on the internet, you probably think that I am good at being light because and I don't see that. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't see that. But I've had enough people say, "Oh, you're so light and breezy and bright," that I will believe the people. So I believe that that is the light that I put into the world, and I'm happy because I do yoga, and my mantra, if we set an intention or if we do a mantra, it is always to be light and be the light. And I will tell you that I am pretty good at one of them. I know I'm pretty good at being the light. Like I know I'm smiley and I'm positive and I'm energetic. And when I'm not, I do like intentionally keep it to myself, but I keep it to myself in a way I have good self-control. Let's say that. And so I try not to put a ton of negativity into the world. However, I am not light. There's nothing light about me. I am intense. I care. I care about things too much sometimes. And it is very hard for me to protect my intensity. Now, I'm pretty good, I think, at protecting my intensity for my clients. And I get that feedback quite a bit. They're like, man, you didn't let on when you were upset or whatever. But I am really bad at it for myself. In fact, we were reading a conference summary not too long ago, and I said, I didn't say that. And somebody else said, you're right, you didn't, but your face said it. And I was like, okay, that's fair. So I know that I am not very good at this. What we are going to be talking about, well, okay, so what we're going to be talking about is when the vibe is just plain bad in your meetings, like what you can do when everybody in the meeting kind of seems discontented. And there's like that tension that you can cut with a knife. I mean, I've been in meetings where it looks like people are sucking on lemons. I've been in meetings where like somebody's getting redder and redder. I've been in meetings with somebody so uncomfortable that their chest is like totally blotchy. I've been in meetings where, people, mostly parents, I don't think I've ever had a school person like really raise their voice, but I've been in meetings where school people have said something to the extent of, I'm sorry, but did you just say blah, blah, blah? I've been in tons of meetings where school people interpret the words of parents or even myself to indicate that, they're judging them poorly, like they think they aren't trying or they think that they're provoking a kid or trying to get a response out of a kid, that they're intentionally causing regression and stuff like that. And I've been in like a million other bad situations in addition to that. The list goes on and on. And so, like, what do you do in that circumstance? So, I meant to say this when I was talking a little bit about myself at the beginning. I'd like for you to pause and to think about how you behave when people in a room are discontented, right? Like, what do you do? I fall into the category of people that talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. Like, we can work around this. Give me the essay and I can get us out of here because I can write or say a good response with words. I can use words to get us out of here. Some people are like really pithy. I really am jealous of those people because I have zero pith in me. But people, can just say, let's call a spade and get us out that way or try to get us out that way. And then there's kind of like a category of people that like is super chill, super calm, super like zen. And that's usually pretty effective. There are the people that get really sad. There are the people that get really intimidated. There are the people that shut down because they don't like to be in rooms with discontented people. And there's everything in between. So I think it's really important that this particular situation involves a lot of self-awareness. So that's why I started this episode with my self-awareness, right? Because like I'm modeling the humility. Okay. So here are a couple of strategies that you can implement if your meeting feels discontented entirely. Most of the time, at least we interpret it to be like everybody in there was miserable the entire time, even if it's not true. So I will say generally, like for the entire meeting or the entire vibe for years, or, a finite time period during the meeting, even if it feels like it's forever. Okay. So the vibe is just plain bad. The three strategies we're going to talk about is disarming everybody by modeling a collaborative, child centered spirit. Number two, making the environment comfortable. And three, using chill body language, actions, and language. So let's start with number one, disarming everybody by modeling a collaborative, child centered spirit. There's lots of things that you can do in order to keep the focus on the child. I think one of the most important things that we can do is we can offer feedback before the meeting and we can try to offer as much objectivity in that feedback as possible. So what's that look like? It looks like getting stuff from outside people like we talked about last week or a couple weeks ago. It looks like, saying this is what works at other therapies or this is what works at home. This is what works in the community. This is what their soccer coach does with them. So any of that like objectivity is really helpful. Obviously, bringing back data, going to the evaluations, looking at your progress monitoring stuff, looking at any logs that you have at home, looking at the report card really, really helps. Also, going to like well, continuously rerouting the discussion to the child, like saying, okay, I understand that, but can we bring this back to my child? Or making the connections. So help me understand how this is going to capitalize on their really verbal strength, or how is this going to address their deficit in processing speed and working memory? So doing it in that way and continuously coming back to the kid is really helpful. My husband has never probably heard me speak ever unless he like hears me through the ceiling. And at a meeting one time, he like pulled a chair over and he was like, let's just pretend that Jack is sitting here. Right. And let's think about him. And I think that's super helpful. I have had clients literally bring framed pictures of their kids and put them on the table and say, let's look at Joe here and, talk about him. And I also think like the obvious thing is let's bring the child into the meeting. Once they're 16 by federal law, 14 in a lot of states, and probably 15 in one or two, I don't know. But bring your child in or work with your child at home and say, hey, we're going to be talking about blah, blah, blah. Do you have any input? Right. So Jack gets really intimidated in meetings. He doesn't like them. But I always talk to him before a meeting and say, do you like this? Do you like that? What do you think about this? Before his transition to high school, I made him a little I didn't make him together. He and I made a kind of all about me book so he could introduce himself to the high school team. And these are people that know him already, but like it helps him to feel involved and it puts them, kind of in the spotlight. And so I remember one case I had years and years ago. The dispute was whether or not we were going to graduate a child. And we were just really stuck. Like this meeting was stuck for 1,000 reasons. It was stuck. And the child, like we were not expecting the child to come in. And it just kind of happened through a series of events that the child came into the meeting. And I was kind of wincing when I said, hey, Johnny, what do you think about this? And that meeting turned around in 0 seconds, like 180-degree turn in 0 seconds because the child happened to accidentally happen upon the meeting. And I opened my big mouth and said, what do you think? So keeping the effort on the child and getting the child's input can have a horrendously helpful effect. Next is making the environment comfortable. Again, if you're like me and you're intense, just trust me that I am, then this is hard. So let me make sure that I have, okay, so this kind of ties to the next thing. So let me do the next thing first. So using chill body language, actions, and language. When I made this talk, remember this talk is from years ago, 5 years ago. I'm certain that I added this bullet point so that I could talk about the research on mediation. For this episode, I did not look at the research on teamwork and mediation, but please know that there is really good research that indicates that more agreements are made when our body language and our facial expressions and the environment and our words are collaborative. So, for example, sit with an open body position. I'll lower this. Oh, look, there's a minion backpack in the background. So, when we open our bodies, we are okay. So the way I'm sitting is I don't have my arms crossed. I don't have them folded in my lap. I have them up on my armrests. I'm leaning back. That is, I am in a receiving mode. I am listening to you, right? When we cross our arms or we fold them in our lap or we I sit a lot of times crooked with one arm draped in front of me. That is a closed body position. Now I do it because I'm hypermobile, I'm pretty sure, but there's research to indicate that we need to at least keep what's above the table open and on a receiving side. I notice a lot that men are really good at this. They lean back and cross their legs, and that women are oftentimes propping themselves up on something. We're trying to ground ourselves. I cross my legs a lot and I prop them against the leg of the table. And so when we close up, we're in eagle pose in yoga, that is a closed position. So that's one way that we can do it. There's even research on you're more likely to reach an agreement if you're at a round table. So think about the way that you sit, right? If you put yourself directly across from the person that is contentious in the meeting, the meeting is probably more likely to be contentious. If you position yourself so that they're kind of like over to the side, then you're automatically not putting a V between you and them. You're maybe even on the same side of the table as them, and that can make a difference in the meeting. Actions. I gesticulate a lot. If you watch the podcast on YouTube, you probably know that. When you watch me on Instagram, you probably know that. I gesticulate a lot because I fidget a lot, hashtag ADHD and chronic pain. So, but I also like do my arms big a lot. Like I will say, I mean, I was talking about eating in class because apparently that's been an issue with Jack recently. And I was saying like you're allowed to eat in school here, right? Because I have a kid, an older kid, Griffin, who eats nonstop, and I used to pack him nonstop snacks. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to eat. And they were like, yeah, you're allowed to, but Jack's kind of perseverating on eating. I'm like, okay, now I understand. And I was like, yeah, I can't imagine that Griffin was like, I'm eating a bar right now. And the second I did it, I was like, why did I have to do that? Because that then distracts everybody in the meeting from paying attention to the matter, right? I can tell you that like, why did I just have to do that? I have probably done 10 times in 20 years of practicing law in an IEP meeting. You just don't do it if you're doing it for somebody else. So that is an example of why you might want to hire an attorney or advocate, right? Because I I believe me, I care a lot. I care immensely about my clients, but I rarely leave a meeting and say, "Oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that?" Like and I got hit by an impulse, right? It just doesn't happen when you're doing it for other people as often. So, kind of keeping the vibe more chill with your body language makes a big difference. Also, don't forget that your facial expressions and your tone of voice matter. When you when your spouse or kids say, "Why is your face like that?" Those are the things that you want to avoid in IEP meetings, right? So the things that like your kids can see right through, other people can see right through. I can't remember we were at Jack's counseling appointment and I was like, he was demonstrating one of his current difficulties, okay? Like, he was having a behavior, and I was not to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really sure which one of us was gonna support him, and, with people I'm familiar with, I'm like, "You or me," because he doesn't do well if 2 people try to support him through something, and so I was, like, trying to lay back, but I'm not a layer backer, as you can imagine, and so I was like and the therapist had, like, taken the lead. And so I'm sure I had an uncomfortable face because I'm not often, like, not in the lead with him, and he said, "Change your face." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, he sees right through that." Like, his EQ is so strong, right? My husband, his eyebrows are always raised, and now that we're all on Zoom all the time, he's pretty much remote all the time. I just pointed upstairs as though you knew he was up there. He, is like, my eyebrows are raised all the time, and it drives me crazy because 'cause I'm always like, "What? Why do you care so much?" I'm trying to raise mine up. Like, why is everything so important all the time? So, like, if we just lower our eyebrows and we chill out for a second, the other people are gonna feel that. So, if he raises his eyebrows in a meeting, other people are gonna feel it, right? So, that's kind of like a good litmus test is if you're doing things that your kids or your spouse or your parents or your siblings are like, "Stop doing that." If they notice it in your family, they're gonna notice it in the IEP. Okay. And then that kind of takes us so number 2 was using chill body language, actions, and language, which leads us to number 3, making the environment comfortable, right? So, like, it's kind of a do this, don't do that kind of an environment, and it's easier to understand how you can make the environment uncomfortable. Honestly, when that, client brought the picture of the kid, I thought that it made it a little uncomfortable. It was almost like we were at a funeral or something. which is where I'm going, in case you were wondering, like, why I have on a black mesh shirt. Mesh? What is it? It's not mesh. Sounds like the 80s. Anyway, enjoy the image if you're just listening. So I guess I'm going to a funeral. I bet we've gotten an inch of snow in like the last 20 minutes. It's just pouring, like literally pouring snow. And we might get a thunder snow today. You know, when it thunders and it snows, it did it last year here. The vibe in the room can really impact the way that you go. So I recommend that when you walk into an IEP meeting that you try a little bit of chit chat. If the school gets like straight into business and you think the meeting might be contentious, it's almost doomed from the start. So I almost always come in with something to talk about, like whether it is the weather or it is a funny story about your kid or it is the my sister-in-law just said it was a blizzard and it distracted me. So I should put this on do not disturb, huh? So whether it's the weather or it's sports or it's something about your kid or something that's happening at the school, those kinds of things like will lead you into 5 minutes of chit chat, and that can be super helpful. Remember, if you always think about these things like business meetings, you very rarely go to a business meeting or hop on a Zoom call and it's like, okay, let's do this. But a lot of times in IEP meetings, like I always write down the attendance. And when I write down the attendance, like most meetings start with introductions. And when I write down that if I can't get my computer open before they start the introductions, I'm like, whoa, 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 we need some chit chat. So then I'll just try to do some chit chat, and that's hard. Now, I will tell you, most of my parents are like, thank you for the chit chat. You're so good at that. So I understand that it is hard to get that started. You just have to plan it. You have to practice it. Like you did when were launching into the world and somebody taught you that when you go to a networking event, you come up with 3 topics that you can talk about, right? Like read the newspaper and then come up with 3 topics that you can talk about when you meet new people. So I think those 3 things really one more thing before I sign off. And relative to the vibe in the room. A lot of people, like a really common question is, do we take treats to an IEP meeting? I typically do, and I do not consider them to be a bribe at all. When I take a treat, it is from the heart. I take treats to business meetings. I take treats to mediations. I take treats kind of everywhere, but that's my nature. I like to nurture. I like to cook. I like to celebrate. And gratitude is an emotion that is like very, very prominent for me. And so I like to be like, hey, yo, thanks. You guys are spending a lot of extra time and effort and energy on my child. And so if you feel like that is disingenuous, then by all means do not do that because it will not be helpful. But if you are tempted to, then take a treat. One pitfall that I don't think I've ever talked about with treats is it might be helpful to take a treat that you can enjoy. I don't eat gluten or dairy. And so a lot of times I will take like cookies or muffins or something like that. And and then I can't eat it and nobody else eats it. And then you've got like something that's making everybody's mouth water that is in the center of the table. And you're like, I want to eat that, right? And so if you can be the first one to be like, I brought cookies, everybody, and followed my lead, I'm going to eat one, that can help immensely. Or, 15 minutes in, you're like, I'm going to have a cookie. That can help quite a bit. So I, I've noticed that and switched. Like the last meeting that I took a treat to, I think I took coffee or offered coffee because I was like, I can enjoy coffee. And by George, I do. Okay. And today I am going to have a coveted 3rd cup of coffee because it's snowy and cozy. And that's what I need to do. I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a great week.